Download Festival's backlash. Phil Anselmo promises to be quite busy, and the legendary Helloween are preparing something extraordinary for their die-hard fans. Metal is live and well, so let's see what keeps it going today. Here you go. Destruction's new album. German thrash metal veterans Destruction have finally announced what we all long anticipated for months now. Of course, their new studio album, which will be titled Birth of Malice and is set to be released on March 2025 via Napalm Records. And of course have already dropped the first single from it. Birth of Malice sounds like next level Destruction. It marks a new era of heaviness, virtuosity, and feels like an old school punch in the gut. Stay tuned and be a part of this wild ride, said Destruction in their statement to the fans. And here overall, I just have to point out that Destruction, in my opinion, is one of those thrash metal bands that deserve way more attention and praise for their legacy than they currently do. As without Destruction, European thrash metal scene would never have been the same. As back in the 1980s, they were actually one of those bands that was bringing heaviness and aggression into the otherwise very melodic European metal scene. And I'm actually really happy that in the last couple of years more and more people started discovering Destruction for themselves, and overall this band has started receiving way more attention once again. So yeah, overall I'm just really excited for it, and knowing Schmier and how much he loves metal and how much he lives for metal, I have this feeling that this album, although of course just as a reminder will be yet another record released without Mike Ziffinger on guitar, will once again showcase why Destruction to this very day remains one of the most influential thrash metal bands of Europe. Or at least I really hope so. And here guys, I simply have to point out that only around 30% of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed to the Metal Pilgrim channel. So if you still haven't done so, and especially if this is not the first video you're watching here, I would really appreciate it if you would consider doing it right now. Let's continue building this amazing heavy metal community together. New Down album. Alright, Down fans, rejoice, cause it looks like it's finally happening, and by this I mean what you've all been asking for so many years now. Yes, the new Down album is coming in 2025. At least that's what the band's guitarist and back vocalist Kirk Wernstein says. I've been in Down world kinda, writing with Down and finishing up the writing for the albums that's gonna be out next year at some point. We've got 10 new songs, man. It is awesome. And you know what? I can't agree with Kirk more. Yes, this is awesome. Well, if this is true, this new album will mark the first band's LP since 2007 and the first new material by the band since 2014. And I'm actually quite excited about it because, first of all, Down is one of the longest lasting supergroups ever, as they were formed all the way back in 1991, and in addition to that, unlike many other supergroups, they actually were able to release some decent material, despite the whole fact that this band has never been the main act for either band member throughout the years. But nevertheless, yes, it looks like next year is going to be pretty busy, at least for Phil Anselmo and Rex Brown, as they have already promised that next year will bring quite a lot of exciting news for all the Pantera fans. And now, in addition to this, a new Down album? Well, I don't know about you, but I'm all up for it. By the way, thanks to the photographer Alina Neurotica for all the photos in that segment. But here I just have to point out that whether you like it or not, but winter is coming, and therefore the time has come for all the metalheads to get into their comfy metal hoodies. And I hear that there's one particular YouTuber who has some pretty awesome metal merch, which he'll be more than happy to send to pretty much anywhere across the world. So if you would like to rock some Metal Pilgrim merch this holiday season, head to metalpilgrim.net. The link, of course, will be in the description to this video, and I'll be more than happy to send it over to you. And just in case if you decide to do that, thank you guys so much, because this channel exists because of all the patrons, all the supporters of this channel, and all those who purchase Metal Pilgrim merch. So yeah, thanks a lot. Download Festival's controversy. Last week, the legendary Download Festival has finally announced the 2025 lineup, including the list of the headliners for next year's festival. And got loose. So the headliners for the 2025 edition of the Download Festival are Green Day, Korn, and Sleep Token.
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say
what? What?
And this has actually become one of the most discussed news online over the past week, even with some Sleep Token fans not agreeing with this decision, and people getting absolutely furious about the whole fact that Sleep Token are being placed in the same category as Green Day and Korn, who are celebrating their 30th anniversary, and their logo is being placed above some pretty legendary metal bands. In fact, this decision has been so controversial that the Download Festival organizers actually had to issue an explanation as per why they decided to do so, with the festival founder Andy Coppins saying the following: "I think it's important for the festival to bring new bands through to headline. Back in the day, I did it with Slipknot, I did it with Avenged Sevenfold and Biffy Clyro. In 2023, we did it with Bring Me the Horizon. Now every one of those bands across the world is perceived as a festival headliner," said Andy, speaking to NME. And you know what? I 100% agree with him on this. Yes, we all metalheads do have to give more spotlights to new bands, and only by doing so we can ensure that our favorite genre will forever endure and will continue living even after our favorite legendary bands will no longer be able to perform live. So yeah, thank you Download Festival, and especially for such band as Slipknot and Avenged Sevenfold. And so after that, Andy added a bit more about his decision to bring particularly Sleep Token, and this is where we can have a little discussion. It feels like we're the first major festival that's taken the bull by the horns and gone, okay, it's time. It's Sleep Token's moment. I know it's going to be amazing for them, amazing for the festival, and amazing for the fans. And here is where I might disagree with him. Now, first of all, I have to point out that this all, of course, is just a matter of personal taste. When it comes to me, I simply cannot get into Sleep Token. And I really tried. I even went to their concert once. Although I didn't stay there for the full time, I simply couldn't do it, but I'm really glad that there are new bands that have such a die-hard following as Slipknot does, and they simply did an incredible job at growing it over the last couple of years. But in my personal opinion, there are some significantly stronger bands, and stronger not only in terms of the marketing, as when it comes to Sleep Token, I think everyone can agree that their marketing is some of the best ones in the genre as of today. But I'd rather say some newer bands who are a bit more all-inclusive and all-embracive. As when it comes to Sleep Token, I feel like people either absolutely love them or simply cannot stand their music. And I'm not talking about mainstream audiences here, I'm talking about metalheads specifically. So when it comes to headlining such a major festival as Download Festival is, there might be some better choices than Sleep Token. Although, of course, I do understand that this can simply be a matter of personal taste. But either way, I actually think that it is absolutely amazing that there are some new bands who are able to headline such festivals as Download, even if I don't personally like them myself. And what about you? What do you guys personally think about this choice of headliners? And what do you guys personally think about Sleep Token overall? Are they on the level of being able to headline such a festival, or do you think there might be some better choices among the younger bands? Please let us know in the comments. I'm actually really curious to find out. Because the thing is, as you most likely understood, I'm not really a fan of Sleep Token, and not really a fan of the decision of them headlining Download Festival. But at the same time, I do also believe that if you don't like a headliner of festival, just don't get a freaking ticket.
Say what? Stop it!
IGNEA's Life Adventures. Ukrainian metal force IGNEA have just finished yet another European tour, and just like any Ukrainian band these days, of course, they did not just only for fun, but also to spread the word about what is going on in our country, and of course, unfortunately, to continue fundraising for those who need it the most in Ukraine. So, first of all, on behalf of our metal non-profit Steel Wings Foundation, thanks to all the IGNEA fans who came out, saw the band, and supported the cause. And secondly, well, after watching the videos from this tour, which I said I wasn't able to attend, I have to say how freaking incredible it is that more and more metal fans tune in and check out younger bands, and especially the bands like the kind that I was talking of in our previous segment. The bands which are able to blend in modern elements in a very progressive way into the classic metal sound without making it utterly boring. So my advice is, next time they are coming to a town next to yours, definitely check them out, at least so that you can say that you saw them while they were still small, when they will become huge. And now the time has come for your favorite segment, a segment in which you get to hear about 5 amazing metal releases from this week without watching my face. 2 of Germany's most energetic and successful bands in recent years, Feuerschwanz and Lord of the Lost, joined forces for a new metal anthem, Lords of Fire. Just as everything those 2 bands release, this track is simply packed with grand melodies which will get stuck in your head for hours to come, whether you like it or not. And what is quite interesting is that these 2 bands will actually go on a co-headliner tour together next year, so there is a chance we'll get to hear this song performed live as intended at least a couple of times. Dutch symphonic metal titans Epica dropped a new surprise single, Arcana, marking the band's first new release since 2021, and apparently the first taste of a long play which the band is set to release in 2025. Arcana guides you through the universal stages of spiritual evolution in life. It leads the way to a higher consciousness and spiritual self-awareness, said Epica in their press release about the song, which apparently they wrote super spontaneously and quickly, yet which did not affect its quality whatsoever. Linkin Park have finally released their highly anticipated comeback album From Zero. And in all honesty, when it comes to such bands as Linkin Park, and especially to an album like this, there is simply no point in trying to grade or reduce its review to a couple of words. So the best thing to do if you do enjoy any Linkin Park material of the past is to listen to it and get your own opinion on the matter. Especially ahead of a massive world tour this band has announced recently for 2025. As said before, it looks like Phil Anselmo will be incredibly busy next year, as his other project, Scour, has announced its first ever LP coming out in 2025 and already dropped a skull-crashing new single, Infusorium. And honestly, this was one of the biggest surprises of this week, so if you haven't heard it yet, definitely check out this black metal track. Machine Head dropped a new single, These Scars Won't Define Us, which may be the collaboration of the year, as it also features In Flames, Lacuna, Coil and Unearth. So all bands will be joining forces for a massive tour starting next April. And I can't even imagine how awesome it would be if all of them would join forces to perform this song together on the road. Well, I don't know about you, but at least to me, this is how you promote your tour. And here, guys, I just have to point out that if you hear of a release that you think that absolutely should make it into the next Metal Digest, just know that you can send it at press@metalpilgrim.net or simply submit it in the comments to one of my Instagram posts. I'll be more than happy to include more and more new music in our Blitz releases. The Unguided march on. This week, the Swedish metal powerhouse The Unguided have released their new single, titled Red Alert, and this song, in all honesty, has touched me quite a lot, as first of all, this track is dedicated to Ukrainians' fight against the Russian invaders, and secondly, my dear friend and the band's frontman Richard Hannesson, who reached out to me about this, actually was able to write it with a very deep respect for what is going on here. So I think it's a no-brainer that on this week's Metal Chat, we will welcome nobody else but the Unguided's frontman Richard Hannesson, who will tell us a little bit about Red Alert and the band's upcoming studio album.
So Red Alert is really a straight to the point heavy metal song. A lot of big melodies, a lot of cool guitars, soaring vocals and all that stuff that you can expect from a metal song. Musically, it's composed by our brilliant drummer, which is also a big music composer, and he did a couple of tracks on this album as well, per usual. And I think this is some of his best work yet. On the lyric and vocal side of things, I did most of the stuff there, wrote all the lyrics, did a lot of the vocal arrangements and some of the melodies. Then Richard and Jonathan had another go on the chorus and made it a bit more catchier, which is very suitable for the song. So the lyrics, I usually write a lot about high fantasy and, reality escapism, which I think is fun to write about. But from time to time I tend to break it down a bit more and address a bit more global problems. I know a lot of people think that musicians should do music and don't tap into politics that much, and I tend to disagree because we're human beings as well, and we are living in this world, and we get affected by all these political waves blowing every now and then in the world, and at the time being it seems to be a pretty dark place. So whenever I write lyrics I try to look inwards, and it's nothing that affected me more the past 2 years than Russia's war on Ukraine, which I think is very unnecessary, and a lot of unnecessary death and decay and misery for no reason at all. So Red Alert is obviously a Ukrainian fight song from the Ukrainian perspective, which a Swedish person wouldn't have a first thing about, but I took the liberty just so it could endorse a nugget of hope for anyone out there. That would be fantastic. If you think I got it all wrong, might so be, then it's still just a cool heavy metal song. On the topic of Red Alert, I'm an 80s and 90s kid. I grew up playing a lot of those games, and Command & Conquer Red Alert was no difference, of course. So this is no like war romanticism in that. It's just, I think it was a really suiting title, and especially because the theme of the band is a lot of nerdy things going on, so it felt appropriate. I hope you don't mind. So I hope you enjoyed Red Alert, and take the serious lyrics to heart and keep fighting. Feelings inside the walls. Inside the walls,
Overall, Red Alert will be released as a part of the band's upcoming studio album Helloween, which will be out in 2025. And here I just want to point out that if you are a fan of modern metal sound, you definitely have to check out the Unguided, as this band was actually able to mix this old school classic heavy metal with a very modern sound and actually do it in a very unique way, which distinguishes them from everybody else. And this, in my opinion, is a big rarity today. Surprises from Helloween. After the success of their previous Reunion and Unity album, which, and in all honesty, this was rather predictable, hit #1 in charts pretty much all across the world, the legendary German power metal house Helloween are preparing something special for their fans next year. Just a couple of weeks ago, Helloween announced their live album Live at Budokan, which is to be released on December 13th this year, and which will of course concentrate on a gig at the legendary Budokan in Tokyo, the legendary venue in which Helloween played for the very first time on this tour. This week, Helloween dropped the news that they are actually working on an album follow-up to their self-titled record released a couple of years ago, which there is a very high chance will be released sometime next year, and which the band once again records with a 7-piece lineup. And in addition to all that, pretty much all Helloween fans know that next year will be rather special for the band, as it will mark the 40th anniversary of their first ever recorded material. And so in order to celebrate this occasion with the fans, Helloween just announced yet another massive tour, which will be titled, you won't believe this, 40 Years Anniversary Tour.
It cannot be.
Which promises to bring a couple of surprises for all of the band's die-hard fans. We came up with some great surprises for the fans. Besides the brand new songs to be performed live for the first time, we will also play tracks from the band's history that you haven't heard live for a very long time, or even never before. The shows will be a fantastic experience for all of us, said the band's founding member, Markus Grosskopf. So as of right now, the European leg of the tour will kick off on the 17th of October with a show in Luxembourg and will last until the 22nd of November and the band's show in Stuttgart. And the band Helloween will take on the road with them will be nobody else but Beast in Black, which makes it not a bad lineup by itself already. But either way, it does look like next year will be a really cool one for all of the Helloween fans, which I'm sure there are many of on this channel. And even though I cannot really call their last self-titled album the pinnacle of their career, simply because of how iconic their early work is, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it actually did match the hype the band created around their reunion. So I don't know about you, but I'm actually really excited to hear what the boys have prepared for us on their next studio output. Grim Reaper Reunion. And the last but not least for today, the new wave of British heavy metal legends Grim Reaper are set to reunite this week for a one-off special show to celebrate the life and legacy of their legendary vocalist Steve Grimmett.
Interrupt me till I die!
And so the new wave of British heavy metal legends are set to hit the stage once again at the Walking in the Shadows festival, named after the 2018 Grim Reaper album, to honor the late Steve Grimmett, who sadly passed away in August of 2022. And the band that will do that is not just some Grim Reaper lineup, which there have been quite a lot in the last 40 years, but rather the original one, the one that stood at the very foundations of the new wave of British heavy metal, and which did not perform together in over 30 years. And this This is what Millie Grimmett, Steve Grimmett's wife, who is a co-organizer of this festival, had to say about this. Steve's life was heavy metal. He got so much pleasure out of performing on stage, meeting fans and recording music. It is only right that the Wings of Angel Festival pays tribute to that through a packed lineup of metal acts from near and far. We're looking forward to a sold-out festival, amazing music, and a fitting celebration of Steve's life. And I simply cannot agree with Millie more, as Grim Reaper, overall, although sometimes being in the shadows, has stood at the very foundation of new wave of British heavy metal movement, and has done a huge job at popularizing heavy metal across the world in the early 80s. And therefore, its leader's life, of course, should be celebrated by all of the metalheads. But here I just also wanted to point out that, hey guys, let's just celebrate the lives of our favorite musicians while they're still with us. Let's go to their concerts, let's purchase their CDs and vinyl records, and let's do everything we can to keep the heavy metal fire burning. But anyways, what new music did you listen to this week? Please let us know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, guys. And more than anything, thank you so much for supporting me, this show in Ukraine, through this very difficult time. As always, please don't forget to like this video, comment under it. You know the drill. Every YouTuber asks you about exactly the same thing. But it actually does help out quite a lot. And by the way, also don't forget to join our communities on Instagram, Facebook, Discord, and all the other social media platforms if you hang out at those. Let's keep in touch even in between our YouTube videos. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we will prevail. Slava Ukraini!